Hey, look, it's relief for one person. It's relief for one person, and it's Stephanie White. Let's be completely honest. Like, it is not a relief for Aaliyah Boston knowing for a fact Caitlin Clark is out. Like, it's not some sort of, oh, you know what, that's a relief. You know, we don't even have to wonder whether or when Caitlin's coming back. We just know she's not coming back. Like, there's no relief in that.
The WNBA is under close examination once more, but this time it has nothing to do with contentious calls or on-court altercations. It has to do with something far more serious. Superstar Caitlin Clark and Indiana Fever head coach Stephanie White's relationship has taken an odd turn, making fans reevaluate what they believe to be true about it.
Stephanie White has chosen Kelsey Mitchell over Caitlin Clark, and that's just flat out the truth. Stephanie White wants to run this offense through Kelsey Mitchell, and she says it herself right here. She wants Kelsey Mitchell to keep firing. At one point in the game, Kelsey Mitchell was 2 for 14. And we already know Caitlin Clark came out on the Sue Bird podcast and said that Stephanie White don't want her shooting.
For Clark and her loyal fan base, what should have been a dream coaching situation has turned into something that increasingly resembles a nightmare. It's getting harder to deny the unsettling fact as the data grows. It's possible that Stephanie White would rather coach the Indiana Fever without their best player on the court.
The Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston deadly connection, pick and roll, two-man game connection that has worked this whole season, gone. Poof, the one thing that was in existence that actually worked, that felt like a little bit of something offensive that worked, gone.
Subscribe if you're enjoying it. Stephanie White's remarks, which can only be characterized as one of the most tone-deaf in recent WNBA history, were the bombshell moment. White expressed her genuine emotions on Caitlin Clark's injuries, which has kept her out of commission indefinitely. Regarding Clark's absence giving the squad clarity, White remarked, "I think that's big. Just our group's mentality, that we have what it takes to keep developing and connecting in those ways." Her next statement, however, was that the team is really more focused and relieved as a result of the circumstance.
I think that's big. Head coach Stephanie White agreed. Just the mindset of our group to know what we've got, we got what we got, to continue to grow and connect in those ways. And is she available? Is she not available? Will she practice? Will she not practice? And that's a sort of disruption that comes with that. So there's clarity. I think it's good for everybody. It's good for Caitlin too. She doesn't feel any kind of way. She can just approach and attack her rehab one day at a time. I think this is crazy. I think it's crazy trying to make an argument.
Relief. Take a moment to absorb that word. The Indiana Fever's head coach recently acknowledged that the squad feels relieved when Caitlin Clark, the league's top attraction and the player who single-handedly kept the team from going extinct, is not in the starting lineup.
Y'all created this mess. She just sits here and tells you, oh, it's better than we know. You knew last week. You knew 10 days ago. You knew dating back to the 14th of July when the injury happened. You knew it then. You knew that she was not going to be able to play. But y'all ran with this narrative. You continue to do it. Oh, it's day to day or it's this. No, you always knew. So you making some excuse now for why you don't play well? That's on you, Stephanie White.
This goes beyond simple misrepresentation or bad word choice. This provides an insightful look into the thoughts of a coach who appears genuinely uneasy about mentoring a generational talent. When your great player is hurt, the last thing you should feel is relief, since she attracts millions of people, sells out venues, and makes more money than the entire league combined.
I think it's a really weird way of wording things. I think they word it in a really weird way, being like, oh, you know, it's going to help us knowing that she's officially out. Like, let's be real, it's a groin injury. She's not going to be out. She was not going to be back for the Vegas game. She was not going to be back for the last Liberty game. She's not going to be back for the Liberty game before that. She's not going to. We know she's not going to be back for the Sky game. Like, we know she's not going to be back until at least like the 8th of August. At least the 5th of August. Let's be real. At least the 5th of August. So, like, I'm sorry, but how is it a relief knowing the Caitlin, not having to worry about whether Caitlin will or won't practice? You know she's not practicing right.
White continued to make alarming remarks about Clark. She has expressed her belief that the squad performs better without its star player on several occasions this season. White raised another eyebrow when he was questioned about the team's performance both with and without Clark. Without Clark, she asserted, the squad engages in more off-ball activities, which leads to quicker ball movements. Without their all-star captain, she said, they have more speed but sacrifice size on defense. Fans were instantly outraged by these remarks since they couldn't believe what they were hearing. We are therefore better on defense, and the ball travels more quickly. Good. Why is Caitlin even necessary? The underlying worry was genuine, even though the remark was mocking. In essence, their coach was saying that the team performed better while their top player wasn't playing.
Let me tell you something. Y'all do not move the ball better without my Caitlin Clark, aka my precious CC. At the end of the day, y'all have only won 4 games and recorded 4 games where y'all had 20 assists as a team at the end of the day. Caitlin Clark, aka my precious CC, she averages 7 to 9 assists a game. You hear me? Because she moves the ball and get everybody open, because everybody and their mama and their grandma be double teaming and triple teaming her, and her team is lazy when it comes to setting screens for her.
White's comments regarding the team's defensive progress during Clark's absence followed the trend. When asked about the team's success without Clark, White said, I think first and foremost, defensively, we've been better. When Clark wasn't on the floor, she commended their meticulous attention to detail and regular coverages. White's seeming fixation on developing a team identity that isn't centered around Caitlin Clark is possibly the most unsettling. White has frequently underlined how the squad has developed a somewhat stronger defensive identity without their star during Clark's several injury absences.
Because without her, they get to play that slow down, walk the ball up the floor basketball that she likes to play over the breakneck, let's run this ball down the floor type of basketball that Caitlin Clark and the team actually likes to play. But you sitting here saying, oh yeah, well, we know what we got going forward. You guys have been the one with the nonsense. So what is the real injury? What's the real status?
Without Clark, this fixation on ball movement betrays a basic ignorance of what constitutes a winning basketball team. Without Tim Duncan, the San Antonio Spurs were unable to move the ball and win titles. Playing without Stephen Curry did not transform basketball for the Golden State Warriors. Superstars are the center of great teams' identities, not the opposite. White, though, appears committed to demonstrating that the Fever can succeed without Clark's help, as though possessing a generational talent is a flaw that needs to be conquered instead of a strength that should be maximized. White's dubious decision-making is evident in both her coaching choices and her public remarks. Following Clark's recovery from her groin injury, White took the bold choice to start Ari McDonald beside her and move her off the ball. Fans widely criticized this judgment because they saw it as an attempt to minimize Clark's contribution to the offense. There is more to the strategic incompetence. White has repeatedly failed to position Clark for success, rather putting her in positions that restrict her influence. Player development is not what this is. It's coaching strategy cloaked in player repression.
What it is that her philosophy just doesn't work with Caitlin Clark. And probably in her mind, she's thinking, okay, she's going to be this, that, and the third if with my philosophy, but actually it hurts her game. This whole off ball is supposed to take away her turnovers away, limit her turnovers, and get better shot selection so she get a higher percentage. That's her mindset. Here's the issue. Her team needs to pass the ball. That's the problem. That's the coach's fault, my opinion. Stephanie, don't you see that her teammates don't really pass her the ball? That's why she's frustrated. That's why she gets mad. That's why she I see it all the time. And I do it while, you know what's funny? When she goes, I'm doing it too when I'm watching. I'm like, yo.
When asked to list the loud leaders in the locker room, White omitted Caitlin Clark entirely, which was perhaps the most striking. White highlighted Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Carlson, and Aaliyah Boston despite Clark being the team captain and the franchise's spokesperson. White acknowledged Carlson and Boston as reasonable voices and commended Cunningham's contagious charm, calling her a natural connection. However, Clark, the athlete who had revolutionized the entire organization and raised women's basketball to a new level of prominence, was not worthy of recognition. This was no coincidence. White's actual sentiments regarding Clark's position within the team hierarchy were made clear by this conscious decision. In any conversation about team leadership, a coach who genuinely appreciated her superstar would bring her up. There are now significant doubts over White's priorities after the way she handled Clark's several injuries during the season. Despite her public declarations that she takes a long-term strategy to Clark's health, her words and actions point to a different driving force. White's reports were always ambiguous and ineffective while Clark was recovering from her groin injury. The way that successful coaches usually treat their franchise players contrasts sharply with this lack of communication and seeming indifference to her best player's condition. Every facet of their superstars' recuperation is closely monitored by great coaches. They don't blatantly acknowledge that they haven't discussed the status of their key players with the medical staff.
She does not want Caitlin Clark being the main player. She does not want Caitlin Clark being that dog on this team, and she's made the decision that this is Kelsey Mitchell's team. It just is what it is, man. It is what it is. We know, we heard Caitlin Clark come out and say herself that Stephanie White don't want her shooting. We've heard that. We've heard that out of her mouth.
Already, the effects of White's strategy are showing themselves. After originally applauding White's hire as the return of a successful coach, Fever supporters are now seriously questioning if she will be able to fully utilize Clark's skills. One disappointed fan tweeted, "I won't be listening to her willingly anymore," in response to White's remarks regarding better ball movement without Clark. Another said mockingly, "Sides, is that you?" A allusion to Christy Sides, the former coach who was sacked in part for failing to use Clark effectively, because it implies that White may be committing the same basic errors that resulted in her predecessor's termination. The analogy is very devastating. The distinction is that White's errors appear more purposeful and premeditated, as though she is making an effort to downplay Clark's significance to the group's accomplishments.
It'd be better that Caitlin Clark is not playing. I don't know, but I'll let y'all listen to it, and you let me know what you think. Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of Rudy's Rant, Her Game, Her Way, Women's Basketball. We talk facts over feelings. I'm your host, Rudy Rodriguez Showmont. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, leave a comment. Appreciate y'all continued support of the channel. So let's just jump right on in on this one.
Clark has experienced disrespect throughout her career, and White's treatment of her is part of a larger trend. Coaches and seasoned players have been intent on correcting her rather than recognizing her exceptional abilities ever since she joined the WNBA. White should know better, which is what makes her strategy so gling. White has experience with the business side of the WNBA as a former coach and player. She is aware that Clark is the only person who has made the Fever a must-watch television show. She knows that nationally televised games suffered a 55% decline in viewership when Clark was hurt earlier in the season. Nevertheless, White keeps making choices and doing things that imply she sees Clark more as a problem to be solved than as a game-changing player to be praised and utilized.
Let that sink in. James Harden ain't won nothing. He just a hooper. At the end of the day, he don't get his team over the hump, and he turnover prone. At the end of the day, he can't, when it comes to clutch time, he can't elevate his team. I've seen it plenty of times. He played for my Houston Rockets. He couldn't get them over the hump because his style of play. Kobe Bryant said it best. His style of play would never win a championship. Kelsey Mitchell's style of play would never win a championship. That Indiana Fever team is selfish. You hear me? Selfish. Ari McDonald, all she care about is putting the ball in the hoop. Everybody want to score.
White continues to minimize Clark's contributions to the team by obsessing over championship experience. She frequently highlights the value of seasoned players like Sydney Carlson and Natasha Howard, arguing that they are more essential to the team's success than up-and-coming players like Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell. After losing to the Liberty, White remarked, "There's no substitute for experience." You must go through it because Tosh and Sid are the only members of our team with championship-caliber expertise. A clear message is conveyed by this persistent emphasis on expertise above talent. The generational talent that has revolutionized her franchise is not as valuable to White as role players with championship rings. Prioritizing previous achievements over current capabilities and future potential is a regressive way of thinking. It's getting more and more obvious that Stephanie White doesn't miss Caitlin Clark after she's been gone for weeks. The coach's remarks regarding focus and relief during Clark's absence highlight a basic discrepancy between White's goals and what the team requires.
Let that sink in. James Harden ain't won nothing. He just a hooper. At the end of the day, he don't get his team over the hump, and he turnover prone. At the end of the day, he can't, when it comes to clutch time, he can't elevate his team. I've seen it plenty of times. He played for my Houston Rockets. He couldn't get them over the hump because his style of play. Kobe Bryant said it best. His style of play would never win a championship. Kelsey Mitchell's style of play would never win a championship. That Indiana Fever team is selfish.
Clark needs a coach who sees her brilliance and creates structures to help her make the most of her influence. She needs someone who recognizes that being a player of her caliber is a blessing rather than a liability. Instead of attempting to show that the team can succeed without her, she needs a coach who will stand up for her, defend her, and set her up for success. She has Stephanie White instead, a coach who appears more concerned with showcasing her own tactical prowess than with bringing out one of the best players the women's game has ever seen. In addition to failing Clark, White's strategy is hurting the entire company and all those who have made financial and emotional investments in this team's success. The trend is indisputable, and the evidence is overwhelming. The Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark are hardly the best beneficiaries of Stephanie White's revealed agenda. The question at hand is whether the organization will see this basic issue before it's too late, or if they will keep supporting a coach whose success strategy doesn't seem to entail making the most of their generational asset.
Kind of tired of the WNBA content creators saying like there's this big conspiracy against Caitlin Clark. No, there isn't. There isn't. I just think that philosophies don't match with Caitlin Clark's strengths. I don't think Stephanie White came to Indiana be like, yeah, I'm there to destroy Caitlin Clark, and I want to take that's silliness to me, bro. Come on, yes, these are common sense. Why would she ruin her career to destroy a player? That's dumb. I think what it is that her philosophy just doesn't work with Caitlin Clark, and probably in her mind she's thinking, okay, she's going to be this, that, and the third. It's with my philosophy, but actually it hurts her game.
Fans' patience is wearing thin, and with good reason. They have witnessed the systematic underutilization of their favorite player by a coach who appears more at ease discussing how the team performs without her than acknowledging her contributions when she is fit and playing. There is no coaching here. It's strategy masquerading as sabotage. It must end before it ruins what may have been a lovely collaboration between a franchise and a generational talent. The clock is running out, and each day that goes by with White talking about relief and better ball movement without Clark further ruins this relationship. Caitlin Clark is worthy of more. Better is due to the fans. Why the Indiana Fever ought to have a coach that views their star as the answer rather than the